Welcome to this edition of ONME Sunday Mornings. My name is Julia Dudley Najib, along with
Linus Najib.
And we want to let you know of all the things that we are going to be doing on this program. But however, we want to let you know where we are right now. As there's leaves and branches, hopefully it doesn't drop in my eye. But behind us, there's a water reservoir. And this water reservoir, we see the ducks. We see how green and beautiful that looks. But that's what's supposed to capture the storm water.
Yes, with this reserve right now, we notice it's level a little down.
It's still low.
And it's pretty low, but it seemed like the ducks are having some fun in it. So
the ducks are having some fun. And so that level should be much higher, inches higher. But the good news is, and we just want to let people know, according to Mark Standriff, who's the director of the Communications and Public Affairs for the city of Fresno, we have been able to, because of our water stage 2 restrictions, they want to thank the community because they have been doing a good job in helping to conserve water.
One thing I noticed that from the beginning of June, the first week of June, we had about 4,000, approximately 5,000
about 5,500
usage of water, and it was reduced all the way to about 1,000.
1,200, a little bit over 1,200, and according to the first week of July, which means
about 4,030 approximately.
Wow, that's a big drop.
Residents
are conserving
water and not watering their grass every day. So that's very good.
So we appreciate Fresno and the rest of those Central Valley residents that are making sure that we can continue to conserve water. Now, I know that storm not too long ago, it just seemed like, we should have all the water in the world, but we're actually needing more.
And I remember that thunder hit hard and the lightning.
But the thunder needed to bring some more rain. I told you that leaf was going to drop.
And it upset our walking time, I noticed. So.
Yeah. So what they're saying is that we want to get the water reduced even more, and that we're at the edge of it right now with 28% reduction that the state has mandated for Fresno by February 2016. So we're pushing for everyone. Again, we appreciate the learn to count to 2. We appreciate the no frown on brown. And, as you go around town and see people's brown lawns, you know that, hey, they're part of that 1,231 residents or minus 4,000 residents that are conserving water. And so City of Fresno wants to give a kudos to you and also the rest of the Central Valley that is following suit and doing the same thing. Well, we want to let you know that there's always a way to contact us to get us the news. You can go to media@amptvnow.com. That's media@amptvnow.com. And that is where you can tell us what's going on in your neighborhood, in your city, in your area. We try to get as much as we can. You can even contact us on Facebook. If you go to our OnMe page, we actually have an OnMe TV page on Facebook, as well as our Anne Marie Pro TV site. And that way you can let us know and just drop a dime and let us know, hey, this is what is happening in my town. For the most part, we try to get that information that is relevant and most important to you. And in fact, for this episode, we're going to be talking about, we just talked about the good news with the water. Mm-hmm. We're also going to be talking about Darren Miller's case. This case has been going on, or at least the trial part, for the last 50 days or more?
Yes, the trial been going on for 50 days. Mm-hmm. So we're going to go into detail about what's really happening
today,
right now.
They're going to be able to watch it on today's show.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
So we're going to be able to hear that interview from Darren Miller and be able to get his side of what's going on and get a more detailed report. We do see that the Madera Tribune has been reporting on the incidents and also on the trial and information that we are seeing as far as statements that are being said, but it's nothing like being able to hear it directly from a primary source that is involved in this case. And we've even seen the amount of money that people have been offering, and we'll be talking more about that. We also want to talk about the United Way report that's finding that many are finding a struggle to make ends meet, especially in California. And it's different how they're able to find these means as far as looking at how people are struggling. It's different from just the Census Bureau. And so we're going to be talking about that shortly and giving people the of how that's being tallied. You'd be surprised how many of us are under the poverty line when we're looking at the statistics here in California.
You would never think that. You look around and look at the average home and the average houses that people are actually struggling and not making ends meet. So we can go into the depths of that.
The cost of living in California is a lot when you're talking about another state where it's the rent alone is 4 times the amount. And so you'll find that urban families are spending about 81% of their income just on the living expenses.
Oh, wow. That's quite a bit.
That's a high number. And so we want to be able to talk about what this United Way report finds. And they're looking at that struggle ends meet where 1 in 3 California households are struggling each month to just meet their basic needs. We also want to discuss the Environmental Protection Agency, hazardous waste, because they are dumping it in areas where you'll find mostly people of color, who are maybe are not aware of these dumping grounds that are causing different elements, different diseases that you would get, of course, from any chemical hazardous waste that is in your area that you're unaware of, that perhaps your kids are playing around.
Well, one thing I notice, and when I go into certain areas, I do notice a lot of the dumps waste in particular areas that's not as common. So we have to find ways to figure out a way to deal with that situation.
We also have other California news. Uber, that's that little car where you can call up instead of calling up a taxi. It's a lot cheaper to call the ride itself, and people have their cars and they've been checked out. Well, California is fining them about $7.3 million. We want to talk about that. California regulators have stepped in, and Uber is risking suspension, and it's a battle back and forth. And we want to talk about how that will affect you Uber riders, because that's a blessing here in the Central Valley, especially in Fresno, where we don't have the subways, we don't have BART, we do have the bus, but we want a system that's a little bit faster than the bus and a little bit cheaper than the taxi. So you're not spending $20 to go 5 miles downtown.
Well, a lot of people are using applications like Lyft to go to certain places that they need to go to, and they're using other different methods to transport themselves as well. So, yeah, that'll be an interesting topic.
So we want to be able to discuss that, and I guess after the break, we're going to get it right into the Darren Miller, talk a little bit about it, and actually be able to speak with Darren Miller so that you have a primary source that's able to tell you what's going on from his point of view. You're watching ONME Sunday Mornings. We will be right back.
AMPTV can now be watched on TV anytime through our Roku channel or on your computer online at amptvnow.com. Better yet, go mobile, live.amptvnow.com.
Welcome back to ONME Sunday Mornings. My name is Julia Dudley Najib, along with
Lennis Najib.
We want to get right into this Darren Miller case. It looks like there's been 50 plus days into the trial, and this has to do with Madera Unified School District discriminating against Darren Miller.
One thing that I noticed in the many articles, and as I was talking to him personally, the testifying of board members that was on the case at the time, you had credible doctoral board member that is testifying.
Lauren Goodwin?
The Lauren Goodwin in the case, and she went into what is called the good old boys kind of system that they have established in there as they was meeting, doing what is called illegal meetings with that.
According to the Brown Act. And so if you look on our screen, you'll see that article that was in the Madera Tribune. I believe that's July 18th. And so we're going to talk directly with Darren Miller right now. So we want to let you see that interview. We got a chance to be able to hear his story, because I know there's a couple of articles in there. There's also another article, I think that was July 16th, 2015, talking about a comment in regards to what Darren Miller said, that where another person was offended. But let's talk to Mr. Miller himself. Let's take a look.
I'm with Darren Miller on ONME Sunday Morning. We was finding out all this information that was happening in Madera Unified School District. We know you right now currently going through a trial of the racial discrimination. Can you enlighten the audience of what's really going on at Madera Unified School District in a trial that you're dealing with racial discrimination?
Well, my trial is racial discrimination and harassment. The harassment is against my previous direct supervisor, Robert Chavez, and the then superintendent, John Stafford. So that's the two elements that makes up the lawsuit. And the lawsuit is grounded in my removal as principal in October of 2009 from Madera Unified. Given no reason, no violation of Ed Code, no violation of Penal Code. They just decided one day that they didn't want me to be the principal and went through the process of making it so.
Did they demote you? Did they get rid of you? And what was the pain and suffering of your life from that?
October 2009, which was 3 months into that 2009-2010 school year, I was called to the superintendent's office, given a letter of removal, administrative disciplinary letter, and sent home. No rationale, no reasoning, just gave me the letter, sent me home for the remainder of the school year. And then on March 14th, I received letters from Madera Unified saying that they were not going to return me as a principal, and also that they were terminating my employment with the district totally.
You know, a lot of times when the public think, did they call you any type of racial name, using the N-word or anything? When people look at racial discrimination, they've got to see what was the cause of that? Why are you thinking a group of people that are your supervisors will put you in a position where you can lose your job?
Power is a very corruptive and corruptible entity when put in the wrong hands. And the then superintendent, John Stafford, believed that he had the ability to move staff, regardless of what the Ed Code and what the Penal Code says, employment law says. He believed that at that time, during his tenure as superintendent, he could move me and send me home. And this lawsuit is about the fact that, no, you cannot do that. I was a tenured permanent staff member, Madera Unified. There's rules in place. If you don't want me to be principal, the Ed Code spells out how you get rid of me. But at no time should I ever been receiving any type of termination letters from Madera Unified, which they also provided me, sent termination letters to my house as well.
I noticed when I read the paper, they was talking about a board member, Dr. Goodwin, I believe, Lauren Goodwin, was testifying of the practices and illegal practices of the board, and she uses one of the codes in there. You can go into a little bit more into it if you can.
Well, yeah, Dr. Lorraine Goodwin, who is still on the stand, actually, she will be continuing tomorrow, which will be Thursday. She'll be on the stand again, hopefully ending her testimony. But she testified last Thursday that there was some severe violations to the Brown Act that was perpetrated by then board members who were on the board 2006, 2007 with her. And then when the new regime came in, was elected in 2008, who was there for 2008, 2009, and 2010. They were having meetings and conversations at Rotary meetings and other types of places when they shouldn't have been doing that. If they were discussing personnel issues, it should have been done behind closed doors at a private meeting of those board members who were there in attendance, and that's obviously not what happened.
Can you describe a little bit about the Brown Act for our audience? Because some people know about the Brown Act, some people don't. What does the Brown Act entails?
The Brown Act is the rules that govern public meetings. Any meeting that is open to the public, you have to follow the Brown Act. And the biggest part about that is that if a majority of your board members cannot meet outside of an announced meeting. And so Madera Unified has 7 board members, 7 trustees that make up their board. If any of those 4 members are together at any time, whether it be a social event, whether it be in somebody's backyard, whether it be at a Rotary Club meeting, if any of those 4 board meeting members are there, that constitutes a board meeting. And if they have any discussions about Madera Unified, then they're basically conducting meetings that have violated the Brown Act.
How many administrations, African American males, are in Madera Unified? And I know you are unique, and I'm sure that there's very little, but if you know the numbers, not just in Madera Unified, it's expanded more in the San Joaquin Valley with Fresno Unified and maybe even Clovis. Can you give us a rough number of that?
Well, I can tell you definitively there's only been 3 African American male administrators in Madera Unified since 1966 when the district was formed, and 1 African American woman. The first gentleman, the first principal of Martin Luther King Middle School, where I was and where I was terminated from, was an African American. He was only there for 1 year. I followed him about 15 years later, 14 years later. I was there for 3.5 school years. And then there's a young man who's a vice principal over at Madera South now, and I'm not sure how long he's been there, but he's been there for about 3 or 4 years. And then there was a lady by the name of Dr. Gwendolyn Stewart, who was also a vice principal at one of the continuation schools, who no longer is in the district.
Now, for the audience out there listening in, how can they be of some support? We're looking at an African American man that's been let go, terminated, maybe demoted, and going through this trial situation. And I know it's heart-wrenching. I know it's time-consuming. What's going on internally with you when you're going through this process?
Well, I mean, personally, I've lost the house. The house that I was in for 16 years. Foreclosed on that because I couldn't keep up with the mortgage. Because this demotion that I wound up having is costing me $35,000 a year. And this is the 5th year of my $35,000 a year demotion. And so that makes you make adjustments. The good thing about it is I'm a Fresno boy. My family is here. My friends are here. I got a lot of support that's been able to help me get through this situation. It's still difficult. I just was found out back in May that I burned up all of my leave time that I've accumulated over the last 25 years. I have 0 days of sick leave left and those type of things. And so now my checks are being docked on a monthly basis because I don't have time to cover for me being in court. And it's just a system. I mean, not everybody's going to be in a position that I am to be able to take on a school district like this and fight through this. God has put me in this position for a reason, and hopefully he's going to use me as a tool to enlighten and help other people stand up and not just let things happen to them.
I was thinking, for all this publicity, you've been in the papers, you've been in Fresno Bee, you've been in the Madera Tribune, you've been all over. And with this kind of exposure, even on this channel, NBC CBS, with this kind of exposure, I would think they would be more willing to just settle with you. And you are willing to settle. I noticed, I saw in the article, it was a $350,000 a settlement. Can you go into more detail on that?
Yeah, let me clarify that, because I guess there's some confusion on that. That information that was in the paper was a settlement offer that came from my side, from me and my lawyer. It was a $350,000 settlement with a letter of recommendation, reinstatement of all the time that I've lost having to go through this court proceedings, and it was immediately rejected by the district side, by their attorney Archert. And so just want to make sure I clarify that. I have not been offered anything other than a $5,000 settlement from Madera Unified when this proceedings originally started 3.5 years ago.
Thank you, Darren Miller, ONME Sunday Morning.
So I'm glad that the audience members got to hear that for themselves and see for themselves. Mr. Miller, this is an ongoing case, but we will keep you up to date on ONME Sunday Mornings as the trial continues to unfold. I know people feel that the amount of money that was given the first go-around actually that was erroneous, correct?
Yes. Well, when I talked to him, when I read it in the paper, I thought that he turned down $350,000.
It made it seem like that, so we want to clarify
but when I talked to him, he was willing to take the $350,000 as a settlement, but they wasn't willing to give him that.
So that would be either a misprint in the newspaper, which they should retract that and fix that, but we want to make sure we report the correct information. And this is talking directly to Mr. Miller. So we want to make sure it's clear that he did not receive an offer.
He didn't receive an offer.
He did not receive an offer.
Yeah. He wanted to accept that offer and be done with this. So he's trying to reason. He's trying to be more reasonable with the district. But let's see what happens.
Yeah. So you are watching ONME Sunday Mornings. After the break, there's some California news we want to talk about. United Way is reporting that people are trying to struggle just to make ends meet. We've got the Uber case and also that environmental waste issue. You are watching ONME Sunday Mornings. We'll be right back.
AMPTV can now be watched on TV anytime through our Roku channel or on your computer online at amptvnow.com. Better yet, go mobile, live.amptvnow.com.
Welcome back to ONME Sunday Mornings. My name is Julia Dudley Najib, along with
Linus Najib.
We want to get right to that California news we were talking about and United Way's report. And this report is called the Real Cost Measures in California 2015 report. People want to know why this report is so important. Well, when you have 1 in 3 California households struggling each month just to make ends meet, we've got to discuss it, right?
Yes. When you're looking at what is happening in California, it went from 17%, and they looked at it's being flawed.
Yes.
And from the national average as being
that's according to Census Bureau, which is flawed, is what they're saying, and they think it should be changed. And so in looking at that 17% of residents impoverished and the national rate of 15.9%, when they did when United Way did their findings and did it the correct way, they were able to see that it's really 24.3%. That is the nation's highest.
That is a lot.
That
means they don't have food, electrical, utilities, and health care.
Yeah, and that's what it's based on, food, rent, and health care. And so they're finding that 3.2 million California households do not earn enough income to be able to do that. So what they're having to do is a trade-off. Is it going to be food or the doctor's appointment? They're not looking at any luxuries. So now we're finding that a lot of these California residents are not able to have basic luxuries of being able to eat out.
Well, that affects the businesses around here. So when a business is not getting those people with the financial resources to help it affects their bottom line. So
if you imagine if it's affecting in California, imagine Central Valley. And so we looked up Tulare County, and where you have 54% of Tulare County residents that fall below the real cost measure. 54%. So now we're looking at the Central Valley.
That is an enormous.
Basic needs not being met, 54%. And if you want to even go further than that, you have 51% of Latino households, 40% of African American households have
40%
incomes below the real cost measure. That's a high number. And so those are some of the key that they're finding for the struggling to get by. That's what that includes. And this is according to the Central Valley, United Way of Tulare County's Executive Director, Rosemary Casso. And she's the one that's talking about the report and looking at just the Tulare County United Way and looking at how that real cost measure is affecting Central Valley residents, especially in Tulare.
Yes, in Tulare, it states that falls below the poverty line.
Right.
Cassidy elaborates.
Yeah, so that's what we're talking about, that 54%, that's high. And so what do we do about it? That's the next thing, right? We're reporting on it. That's first letting people know about what's going on. That's the first step. Meanwhile, other in California news, we want to talk about the EPA. And so this Environmental Justice Health Alliance for Chemical Policy Reform is suing the EPA, and because they are dumping on grounds that are predominantly people of color. This is bad news. And so they're not protecting our communities from hazardous spills. They're just letting it go.
I would think that would be illegal. It's
it would be if there are regulations. So you have absence of regulations, and this is what the group is saying and that they're posing. And so it's a major public health risk, especially to residents of low income areas and neighborhoods and people of color. And so you have the facilities, the manufacturer, the store that are using these hazardous substances to basically tend to cluster, and they're all in one place. So now the lawsuit, which was filed with the United States District Court for the Southern District of New York, asked the court to require the EPA this is the Environmental Protection Agency, to issue regulations to prevent hazardous substance spills from industrial facilities, including above-ground storage tanks.
So what they do is they take this hazardous waste and they go to a certain particular area and just dump it anywhere.
And if people aren't knowledgeable of that, and that's why we have programs like this, so people can be more knowledgeable about their surroundings and what is being dumped in that area. And so they had a case in 2006 in Garyville, Louisiana, where they had 2,500 gallons of sodium hypochlorite, and also Madera, California, involving 13,000 gallons of sodium hydroxide. And Pittsburgh, Virginia, a case involving 257,000 pounds of iron chloride. And these are all very dangerous substances. Exposure to these chemicals are very dangerous, in fact, fatal.
So some of these may cause cancer. Some
Absolutely.
of these may cause serious health problems and you don't know where it's coming from.
And that's why they need preventive regulation. So right here, Madera, that's in our backyard, Madera County, in these dumping grounds where this is happening. And so the EGA's 2014 report, we'll have to put that on our website so you can get more information about that. And so I'm glad that we're keeping up on the up and up when it comes to California news, so you know what's happening in your backyard. In fact, Central Valley is included. And after the break, we want to be able to talk about that Uber case. More California news. You're watching ONME Sunday Mornings. We'll be right back.
AMPTV can now be watched on TV anytime through our Roku channel or on your computer online at amptvnow.com. Better yet, go mobile, live.amptvnow.com.
Welcome back to ONME Sunday Mornings. My name is Julia Dudley Najib, along with
Lennis Najib.
We wanted to finish up with the California news and also finish our program today. We want to talk about that Uber lawsuit. So, not really a lawsuit, it's a fine. $7.3 million.
Wow, that's a lot of money. So people out there looking at that kind of lawsuit, would that make some significant damages?
Damages on the people that want to get a ride. So the California regulators are saying that Uber is risking suspension because they are not being transparent about their operations. Now Uber says they beg to differ. And so that's what we see as you look at the screen. The Associated Press reports on this, how the California Public Utilities Commission ruled that the ride-sharing service has 30 days to pay up or risk having California license suspended. And the ruling was handed down as a result of Uber refusing to give out information about its business operations, specifically details such as why accidents occur, where drivers may decline to accept a ride, and whether the company permits and companies like Lyft and Uber to operate freely as long as they are transparent about their practices. So California doesn't have a problem with that. Uber has argued in a statement that giving out additional details was unfair to both its drivers and customers, and noted that it will appeal the ruling. So we shall see what happens on this decision in the latest series of calls and all the stuff that's happened with Uber.
Yes, that's very interesting to know that they are not being transparent, so they sound like they have something to hide.
They say they're being transparent, so we will have to find out where this case will end. And so hopefully you might be still using Uber, or you might have to get a ride elsewhere. We're so sorry to report on that part of the news. And we thank you for watching this edition of ONME Sunday Mornings. We hope that you have a great week.